Okay, welcome back. So we're 3 specs down, 1 to go for the Druid. Well, 3 rolls down, 1 to go. So we've got balanced last. So what is this video? What does it mean? So how are you going to have the best possible gear before you go into Karazhan in TBC? So we're going to look at the quests that you shouldn't miss on the way up, because that item might last you until you replace it in Karazhan. First heroics that you want to be farming, dungeons that you want to be farming, what reputation do you want to aim for first, craftables, all that sort of thing. Basically things that are obtainable within, let's realistically say, a week, 2 weeks maximum before your guild are ready to go in Karazhan. So let's just get straight into it. Just make sure you like, subscribe, check out the giveaway, ring the bell, all that good stuff. Keep supporting the channel. Thank you very much. Let's go.
Okay, so we're at the last spec of the Druid now. So we've already done tanking, feral DPS and resto. Now we're going to do boomkin, which is one I'm actually really excited about. I've been leveling as boomkin and absolutely love it. It's actually really powerful, not got the mana issues that it used to have, brings tons of raid utility. So we're going to dress up our Tauren that we've got here in the gear that I would recommend aiming for. Some of it is going to require a lot of gold or friends or whatnot, but we're talking about, what's going to be a really realistic but ideal set of gear to aim for before you step foot into Karazhan. And we're ultimately saying that you're going to do this in a week or 2 max. So 1 to 2 resets before your ult, could be your ult or could be your main, is ready to go into Karazhan. So what I've based this gear around is hitting the hit cap, which is 16%, but you obviously get 4% from balance of power. So then, with that aside, so with balance of power, the 4%, you're going to need 152 or just under 152 hit rating. So with the items that I'm equipping, or what I'm going to recommend, you need about 30 hit rating from gems, or around 17 to 18 if you're in a party with a Draenei, because the Draenei gives you 1% hit. So it's as I say, a realistic set of gear to aim for. There are bits where I've gone for more crit and spell damage, where I'm actually going to give you a hit item alternative as well. So then you can get hit capped without gems, without being in a party with a Draenei. But I'm ultimately going for, trying to get the maximum out of the character, and odds are, in TBC, you're always going to have a Draenei in the party, so you can afford to drop that 1% hit, particularly in raids, maybe not so much dungeons. But really briefly, for Boomkin, the things that the Boomkin brings, raid utility wise, you've got Fairy Fire, which obviously you've got in Classic, but still is very nice. Yep, reduces the armor, but also if you improve it through talents, you're also going to give your melee and hunters 3% hit. Now, you can look at that 2 ways. It can be slightly wasted because ultimately your melee are probably going to gear to be hit capped without that, but at the same time, it does give your melee and hunters a little bit of flexibility, especially in getting into Karazhan early. So if you're going to be a main spec boomkin, you might want to take this to begin with, so that your melee and range can focus maybe more on raw damage secondary stats rather than getting hit. So I would advise it. So obviously you bring Insect Swarm, which is going to help your tanks, reduces the chance they're going to get hit by 2%. Then you've got all the usual things, combat res, innovate, and all of that good stuff anyway. And then also I'm going to assume that your character is level working. Why? I mean, in all of the other 3 specs videos that I've put out, I've rated level working really high as a profession. Now, it's great for your main spec, your off specs. You can really make some good gear, some good gold as well. Some of the items are going to be well sought after. You also then can have drums of battle. So basically, in most raids, especially maybe big sort of DPS requirement bosses, you're going to want drums of battle, which is basically a mini heroism. So heroism or bloodlust, whichever you are, horde or alliance, only affects the party, not the entire raid. So then you want as many level workers divided amongst the parties, as well as shamans to bring drums of battle, because it is going to help no end. Just on a side note, obviously I've mentioned the endless TBC server quite a few times. If you are playing on there, make sure you send me a message, because we've got a guild going. So just jump on our Discord, which is in the description, and we'll get you in. And yeah, you can play with us, raid with us. It's great fun. 5 times XP. Level into Breeze. Really active server as well. So yeah, be cool if you wanted to jump over. So we'll just crack on straight with the head. So we've got Spell Strike Hood, Magnified Moon Specs, and Circlet of the Starcaller. So Spell Strike Hood is a tailor in BOE. Amazing. best you're going to get before Karazhan. You can see why just looking at the stats. If you are engineering, you might opt to go for the engineering head, which is still nice. You get your metagem socket with this one, but you miss out on the 2-set bonus of Spell Strike. So even if I was an engineer early on, I would still try and get Spell Strike personally, but maybe from a cost-effective perspective, you might be better off with the engineering head. And then lastly, I always try and obviously give you a little bit of a mix. So maybe crafting, maybe BOE, maybe a quest item, but something that's a bit more easier to obtain. So for the easy obtain one, we've gone for Circlet of the Starcaller, which is just from a quest in Neverstorm. Decent stats, perfectly viable to step into Karazhan with. No questions asked. But we want to go for the nice, balanced, well-rounded set that I've put together that I would recommend would be, a good place to start Karazhan wearing. So on our Tauren here, we're going to put Spell Strike Hood on and see how ridiculous it looks. I did warn you it was going to look ridiculous, so you probably want to hide your helmet slot once you put this on. So moving on, we have the necks. So we've got Brooch of Height and Potential from Shadow Labs. We've got Natasha's Ember Necklace and Hydra Fang Necklace. So a lot here are, well, two of them from Dungeons, one's from a quest obviously, but the one from Shadow Labs, it's only Shadow Labs normal, so quite easy to get hold of. And it's probably the most balanced neck from a stat perspective early on. It's got all your important stats: hit, crit, spell damage, stamina, intellect, and it only requires 68, so you can get this before you even get to 70. You might want to do a few Shadow Labs at 68, 69, maybe 67, and get hold of this neck before you even ding 70, so this would be my preferred option. But then you've also got Natasha's Ember Necklace, which is from the Houndmaster quest in Blade's Edge Mountains. It's a nice one to get before you get the brooch, but it lacks the hit. But it's still a decent one to start with. If you got unlucky and didn't get the Shadow Labs one, you'd be alright with Natasha's Ember Necklace going into Karazhan anyway. And then lastly, arguably better than brooch, as it's got more hitting in, but only by a little bit, but you lose the crit. So I personally would still probably go for brooch. So that's what we're going to base the stats on for our character. We'll be putting Brooch of Height and Potential on this character. But obviously you're not going to see a necklace, so it's fine. We can just move straight on to shoulders. So for shoulders, we've got Spores of the Torn Heart, which is from the Cipher of Damnation quest in Shadowmoon Valley. It's low on primary stats, but high on plus damage, and it's only from a quest. So it's a really good item. But then you've also got, from just a Terracar Forest quest, not very difficult to get, we've got, and it's green, but the Elec Hired Spalders, so really nice green item, which is an option. And you've got Mantle of Free Terrors, which is from Black Morass. So you could choose these to make up for missing hit. So like I said, you're going to be around, without a Draenei, around 30 points of hit rate in short. So you maybe want to opt for these to get, to the hit cap without worrying about a Draenei in the party and, without having to waste gem slots. So that is an option. I'm going to equip our little Tauren here with the Spalders of the Torn Heart, however, because they are what I would personally be shooting for, and which I will be shooting for on my 70 Druid on Endless. So we'll go with that now. Well, that just looks awful, but not too bad. Wouldn't complain too much. It's probably worse looking shoulders. So, moving on to the cape. So, we've got the Cephek Oracle Cloak from Cephek Halls. This one's probably the best due to the hit, and it's got a good amount of damage as well. So, you've got 12 hit plus your spell damage, so really nice. You've got Cloak of Entropy, which is a BOE world drop. It's got less hit, less in, but it is just a BOE, and you can get it at 61. So you could very well see this drop while you're actually leveling. So this would definitely carry you into Karazhan. I wouldn't feel bad going in with this equipped rather than getting the one from Cephek Halls. And then lastly, I just put the Badge of Justice one on here because there's only really the Trinket. Only really the Trinket that you're going to be worrying too much about spending your Badges of Justice on. Maybe the offhand if you go one-hand, offhand option. But to begin with, your Badges of Justice, you could quite easily buy the cape. It's still not what I would recommend. I would recommend the Cephek Oracle Cloak, which is the one we're going to put on him now. But it would still be... any of the other two would be perfectly viable to go into Karazhan with. But we're going for an achievable, well-rounded set, like I keep saying. So we'll go with that. Then moving on to the chest. So this one could draw a bit of controversy, if you like, because I'm going to go for the Wind Hawk Horberk, because it's a mouthful, and I love saying it. So this would be my recommendation. I even recommended it in the Resto Druid video as well because it's multi-purpose. It's a nice set in general. If you want to switch and do a little bit of healing, it's a perfectly viable chest to heal in, and it's a perfectly viable chest to DPS in. It is just a nice, well-rounded set of gear, and 100% will be the items that I'm gunning for straight away is this set. So it's my number one recommendation. But then the other ones that I've put on, so you've got Robes of the Crimson Order, which is just a BOE well drop. So swapping out Windhawk for this, and it's only a BOE, you'll get hit cap without the Draenei or Gemin. So this could be an option for you if you're not level working and you don't want to go level working, or you don't want to make the level working gear, whatever your preference is. But this BOE would be perfect. As I say, you're going to get your hit cap if you was to equip every other piece of recommended gear. So, worthy option. Then there's the Warp Infused Drape. So this is just from Botanica. It's another easy to get hit option over the Windhawk set if you're not level working. So it's not quite as good as Robe of Crimson Order, but it's still very nice, nonetheless. So, but we're going to go for the Windhawk Hauberk anyway, so we'll put that on now. Lovely, it's coming along already. So braces is going to be easy. You know what I'm going to say straight away. Windhawk braces, obviously, we're going to make the full set. Then you've got the Crystal Weave braces, which is from the Gorilla sort of daily area that you might end up doing. You probably will. So it's a really nice alternative to the level working braces. It's only slightly worse, but still, if you're not level working, solid one to gun for. Then you've also got this, it's a really nice green, and it's only from a quest. So it's similar spell damage, just lower primary stats and no crit, but it's free and easy to get, and you'll probably get it while you're leveling. So that's the Mana Infused Wrist Guards, which is just from a quest in Neverstorm. So again, perfectly viable braces, if you wanted to note that one down because you don't want either of the others. But you've got to remember, there are lots of options for these. I'm only giving you what I would consider either easy to get or the best ones you can get, or, I'm giving you a nice balanced option between the three. But, if you just wanted to go for the quest ones, it'd be absolutely fine. So, but we're going to put Windhawk braces on ours. Cool. So now we've got the braces on him. Let's move on to the hands. So, hands is quite a difficult one. I'll be honest with you. I don't think there's really that many that are that exciting. So, what we've actually gone with here, so we've got the Gloves of the Dead Watcher. Then we've got Gloves of Pandemonium and Gloves of Oblivion. So, Gloves of the Dead Watcher are going to be... You want these. There's higher hit alternatives, but only by like 1 or 2 rating, and it's not worth losing the extra damage and primary stats. So, obviously you can get Gloves of Pandemonium, which it's only a BOE. It's a nice level 62 BOE, and it will definitely take you into Karazhan with all 3 desirable stats. You've got your hit, crit, spell power, and it probably shouldn't be too expensive. But ultimately, Gloves of the Dead Watcher, which is from Heroic Orkney Crypts, by the way, is definitely the best option. And then lastly, you've also got Gloves of Oblivion. You could set up upset a Warlock in your party and take these. They're on par with Dead Watcher, to be fair. Not much in it, but I would still go for Dead Watcher personally. But yeah, still an option. But we're going to equip Gloves of the Dead Watcher on our Tauren here. Lovely. Looking more and more like a Tauren Warlock as time goes on. So, nice easy one again. Belts. So, yep, we're going to make Windhawk belt and go for that. Don't need to keep explaining why we're going for the Windhawk set. It's a good set. So, if you're not level working, you're not prepared to get level working, or just can't be bothered to farm the mats, then you've got Belt of Depravity from Heroic Arcatraz. So, it's a hit alternative to the level working belt, to be fair. So, again, like I'm saying, with the set that I'm equipping here, we are a little bit short on hit. So it's one of these slots that you could maybe sacrifice one of the better items that I'm saying to get that hit and not have to worry about it. That's entirely up to you. All of these items are entirely up to you. This is by no means an exhaustive list of items, but I would get Windhawk belt, and I would recommend it to any druid going into TBC should be going in as level working. So at least level working for the first sort of tier, but the drums are always going to be a requirement. We're going to want them all the way through the expansion. So if you want to be useful to your raid as well, which I'm sure you will be useful just as whatever spec you're playing, but you can be even more useful and bring more to the raid. So then you've got the last one, Black Welt Belt, which is just from a Blaze Edge Mountain quest. So a nice green option. It's a poor man's version of the other two, really. but it would get you in Kara. You know, it's got crit, it's got spell power, good amount of both, so why not? If you don't want either of the other two, make sure you pick this belt up when you're questing, and you'll be absolutely fine. But let's bang on the Windhawk belt on our Tauren now. Lovely, lovely, looking good. So legs, moving on to legs. So we've got true Spell Strike pants. They're going to be what we're going to go for. Some other alternatives. So the Kurenai kilt, which is quite easy to obtain, and it's a really nice set of legs, to be fair. So that comes from Kurenai rep as Alliance or Magar rep as Horde. It's crit, lots of damage, 3 sockets, nothing wrong with it at all. Wouldn't even take an awfully long amount of time to be able to get them, so definitely worth a look. And then we've also got the breeches from Black Morass. So it is from Heroic, and they're a nice pair of legs, but BM Heroic isn't really the easiest. I'm sure it won't take long. You know, you will be clearing it, but it's probably one of them that does require a bit more gear than maybe some of the others, because you are, in a race against time. Basically, you need to have the DPS in the group to be able to keep on top of the waves. So it's an option, but I'm not going to say it's an easy option to get. If you're not going to get the Tailor in BOE, then Kurenai kilt would probably be the best thing that you could go for. But we're going to equip our Tauren now with the Spell Strike pants. Doesn't look great, does it? But who cares? You're going to be in a big laser chicken form anyway, so you're not going to have to look at it. So moving on to the boots. We've got some nice hit boots. There's plenty of crit alternatives, but we're going to use the hit boots, so the extravagant boots of Malice. We're going to use these for the hit. There's not many boots with hit on. The majority of them are crit alternatives. So you got the Sigil Lace boots, so that's from Arcatraz. If you get hit capped elsewhere, so if you've changed any of the previous suggestions for a hit piece, then perhaps you could go for like the Sigil Lace boots from Arcatraz, if you can live without the hit. But there's better alternatives in my opinion, and that would be the extravagant boots, and then using the higher spell damage, higher crit items in the other slots that I've mentioned. And then another really easy one to get, which is just from a Neverstorm quest, is the Shimmering Azure boots. Really nice. They've got hit on. They're from a quest, and they're not really that far behind the extravagant boots, to be fair. So that could be perfectly viable to go into Karazhan wearing. But on our Tauren, we're going to go with the extravagant boots of Malice. So apart from a weapon, this is pretty much what our Tauren would look like running around Orgrimmar. We're definitely going to have to put a tabard on it. But let's move on to the rings. So now, rings, I had to put this one on. So, Cenarian Expedition Exalted. I've said this in every single Druid video, but you're going to want to get Exalted with Cenarian Expedition. You get a pre-raid BIS item with more or less every spec, and obviously one of them is Earth Warden, so if you have a plan on doing some tanking, it's even alright for DPS early on. You're going to want to go for Expedition rep, and this ring is lovely. It lacks int, but it's got a good amount of hit and spell power. And the items in general, so you get the offhand for Resto from Cenarian Expedition, you get the weapon. I even think we went for the head for Resto, which is from Cenarian Expedition as well. So it's a good reputation to be aiming for straight away. And it's really the only one where I've specified, out of all this gear, it's not like I've said, oh, you need Exalted with this, Exalted with that. This is the only rep that you'll need to get Exalted with for this item setup. So then you've also got Sparkling Arcanite Ring. So this is Old Hillsbrad Foothills Heroic. This will be the second ring you really want to aim for, because it's got hit, crit, spell damage. It's a lovely ring, but it is from a Heroic. Don't know, depending on the people that you're surrounded with in TBC, maybe they'll find Heroics difficult. Who knows? They're not as easy as dungeons on Classic, for example. So, I don't like putting too many heroic dungeons down, because they could be quite time consuming. But then you got Mana Storm Band as well, which is a nice easy one just from a quest. So it's a nice alternative. Doesn't have hit, but it's still very nice anyway. So we are going to go with the Sparkling Arcanite Ring and Ashian's Gift. But like I say, there's loads of rings that you can choose from. But these are probably the top two, they are the top two, the two that we're going to equip a character with. But then you have got Mana Storm Band and various others from quests that will be, fine alternatives. So then if we move on to the trinkets, so like I said, Badges of Justice wise, we'll probably use our first 41 badges on the icon of the Silver Crescent. It's ultimately the best you can get pre-raid. So the other two, so Quagmirian's Eye is very, very good. From Heroic Slave Pens, not an overly difficult heroic to do. It's solid, and possibly in the top 2 trinkets pre-raid, maybe even through Karazhan, still remains one of them. But it's luck-based to a certain extent. Not the acquiring it, but the actual using it, so the haste proc. And these sort of procs, I don't know about you, but for me, they always go off when, I don't know, I'm moving and can't use it, or, you get unlucky. So you have got Dark Moon Crusade as an alternative, which is just going to, while you're casting, it's easy to keep up. You're just having that constant spell power. So you might want all 3 of these, to be fair. But I could see me probably using Icon of the Silver Crescent and Dark Moon Crusade over Quagmirian's Eye, but ultimately this will need a lot more in-depth testing on exactly which one's going to be better. But as I say, you'll probably want to pick all 3 up anyway. And then idols, again, you'll want all of them, all 3 of these. So I'm not going to say which one's better, which one's worse. You're going to want them all, because on short fights you'll use Avenger, where you can just Wrath spam, because Wrath over Starfire will do much more damage but be much less mana efficient. But on longer fights, where you have to be a little bit more careful, maybe you've not got Shadow Priest in your group, whatever, you'll probably use Moon Goddess for the extra Starfire damage. And then you're going to get the Raven Goddess trinket, because it's just part of a quest line that every Druid's going to do anyway. So that you'll just pick up naturally. But definitely Avenger and Moon Goddess, you're going to want those, and you're going to want to swap them round, depending on what sort of boss fight length you're up against. And then weapons. So weapons, there's not a real clear winner between one-hand, offhand, and two-hand, because it depends on what sort of stats you want to go for. So I'm going to do it as a combo. So the first combo would be the Eternium Runed Blade, which is a blacksmithing BOE and will probably be quite expensive. But if gold's not an issue for you, or you've got the support from your guild to get this, then obviously that's fine. And then you've got the Talisman, which is from 25 Badges of Justice. So ultimately you're going to get a hell of a lot more spell power from the one-hand, off-hand option, particularly for arcane spells. But then Terok Shadow Staff, I think, is a lot more well-rounded. So it's got a ton of crit on it as well. Comes from Heroic Sefik Halls, which you're probably going to run that dungeon quite a lot. So odds are you're going to get it eventually. Like I say, this with weapons, we have to be realistic, and if we're trying to get a weapon from a heroic dungeon, we have to face facts that it could quite easily take longer than 2 resets to get it if you're unlucky. So that's why I've put Orkanai Staff on as well as a third option. There's quite a lot of weapons around this sort of quality, but this is only from Aldor Revered. So this could actually sway your decision on whether you go Aldor or Scryer's Reputation. But this would be quite a comfortable one to get fairly early, until maybe you get the blacksmithing one with the offhand, or you get lucky in Sefik Halls. But ultimately, any of these you could go into Karazhan with. You could get the Orkanai Staff and you'll be fine in Karazhan until you get a replacement in there. But me personally, I will be gunning for Terok's Shadow Staff quite early on, because I want tons of crit. I want all those Nature's Grace procs for quicker casts, so that would be my preference, even at the loss of some spell damage. But that finishes it off. That's literally all the slots, a few options in each slot. I hope you enjoyed it. This brings the Druid class to an end. So the next 2... I'm going to be switching between Shaman and Paladin. So I'm not doing Shaman, Enhancement, Resto, Elemental, or Paladin's specs. I'm going to be going backwards and forwards. So the next one that goes out is going to be Rep Paladin, then it's going to be Enhancement Shaman, and then I'm going to go backwards and forwards between the 2. That's purely because a couple of different guys in the comments have asked specifically for these to be next. So thought I'd keep it fair, do a spec of each. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you like, subscribe. As I say, if you're on Endless, give us a shout on Discord, give me a follow on Twitch, and I'll see you on the next one.